she actually was going to give up on her business so she could become a mom.
I could totally see that if I hadn't met you, that I would have run myself into the ground. I may have still been in business. My life would not be anywhere near what it is now. I don't know how many hours I was actually working, but it was definitely more than 40. Initially, just being able to bring it down to like a regular work day, that in itself was like awesome. Like I can go out to dinner with my husband, like I could do those normal things.
She met me and we worked out some systems in her business. And not only was she able to keep her business, be a mom, she was able to grow her business beyond. She has employees now.
I think the main thing I gained from working with you was a mindset shift. Having my phone ringing all the time, I was like, oh, this is great. Adjusting my mindset and realizing that those things, they don't have to be what success is. My success doesn't have to look like that. Like, I think I went in wanting more life, but actually what I also got was more business. And I didn't expect that.
In this last year, go on a 6-week vacation with her family, and all of her business kept growing. We're going to share how this all came about so you can learn and take away some nuggets right now that you can start having more business and more life. Let's jump into the episode. Welcome to More Business, More Life podcast. On this episode, I have Jennifer Chang here, and she is a family immigration attorney, and it is amazing, her journey that we're going to highlight. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, Jennifer. I'm so glad that we finally get to sit down and have this conversation. Just some highlights for the listeners and the viewers. The thing that, and maybe you can talk a little bit briefly, and then we'll go through more of the story. But when you and I met, it was like, there's no way I could be an entrepreneur, own my own business, and be a mom. And this is pre-kids, so you're like, it's impossible. And then we sorted that out, and you've actually kept your business, worked part-time, and a mother of 2 now. So maybe just share that success to kind of kick things off, like how it went from there to there.
I think a lot of it is like mindset changes. I was in a space where I felt like I had to accept everything that came in the door, and I was just probably not using my time very wisely, and just working a lot and working really hard. And so trying to figure out how to keep my business running while also making space for my life. It just didn't compute. Like I couldn't imagine how it could be possible.
So the way that it was in your business, you were going to basically exit, go get a job for someone else so that you could have time off to be a mom?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it was like, well, if I can't figure this out, then I need to go get a job where I could have a maternity leave and where I can have those things that I want. Because otherwise, when you're by yourself, how do you keep a business running when you're trying to focus on other things?
Makes sense. And so just a little highlight, and then we can go through the journey. Sure. So you did it, though.
Yeah.
You do. So you've had your business now, and how many years now? If you're okay, I know, is your oldest 4 now?
He turns 4 in 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty close. That's good. And then you have a daughter now too.
Yeah. And she's about to be 2.
Okay.
This month. Yeah.
So basically you did it. So you are still a business owner. Business has even grown since I met you, and you're a mother of 2. It's amazing. So before we get into details and go through all that journey, tell us, your business, just maybe share what you do, and then maybe even a little bit why. Because I know it's so important to you in your heart, why you do what you do.
So I'm a family immigration lawyer. So typically I work with newlyweds where one person is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, and the other spouse is a foreigner. Maybe they're here on a work visa, maybe they're here undocumented, or maybe they're living overseas. And so I help them navigate the constantly changing immigration process so that they can deepen their roots and actually plant their roots here in the United States.
So beautiful. And in that, let's go one layer deeper.
Sure.
You're doing this not just tactically. Yes, you're a lawyer, but you're doing it because you care. So maybe go into why did you choose to do this line of work?
So I'm someone who has always been like highly motivated by helping other people. And so when I'd gone into law school wanting to help, and like I came out of law school a children's attorney representing foster kids in the foster care system. And when that chapter came to a natural end, I was looking for ways that I can continue to help and serve other people, with the potential to essentially the potential to feed my stomach and my soul, right? And so it just seemed like a great avenue to be able to help people who need the help, continue working with young people, which is my passion, and also give back to a community that had been very instrumental in my life indirectly. My parents are immigrants, and when I was going through that kind of career transition, my mom was telling me how this is like maybe 30 years later. She still looks back on her experience with her immigration attorney and how impactful that was for her and how grateful she was to that person's help.
Wow, so many layers in that, in that little answer, but it was so powerful. So from your personal story with your family, and then your mom telling the story and how much it impacted, and then you personally wanting to work with young people, and you get to have that experience, then how does that feel now that you're able to continue to help people in this way?
I mean, it's awesome. That's where my joy comes from in my work, is like being able to help them achieve their immigration goals and being able to help them put aside those worries and like to answer their questions, and to be able to essentially calm the nerves through what is a very long and unpredictable process at times.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because you have so much. I mean, anytime you're dealing with the government, like any of us, whether it's your car or your taxes, I mean, there's just so much paperwork. And if you check one box wrong, they send it back to you. So, I mean, I'm talking simple things. I know
Sure.
there are other complicated
Yeah.
things, but I can understand how that would be. And I guess I'm just realizing and maybe I thought about this before, but it's just really hitting me as you're saying this, that if your income could have changed and you would have had to, in a way be owned by a job to be the mom that you are, but then on top of that, your cause would have been impacted because you wouldn't have been able to help people.
Yeah.
So when you were, so going back to that moment because you knew, especially that you want to help young people, obviously you want to be a mom. So, that you were willing to give that up to be a mom. And I could see that knowing that's so important.
Yeah.
But how was that when you were almost going to give up on your why too, right? Because that was part of the equation. I guess we've never really discussed like what was going through your mind.
I think that's like when we met or when we started working together, it was kind of an opportune time, because it was like I knew that I wanted to continue working for myself if I could, right? But like it was like I either make it happen or go somewhere else where to have the life that I wanted. Right. And so it was like I was at a crossroads, and if we couldn't make it happen, then I think I was mentally preparing myself to be ready to shift. And like there were times where I put in applications for jobs, and then I would go to the interview and they would ask me when I could start, and I'd be like, oh, well, I don't know. And so like part of me, I think maybe part of my brain was like, okay, like I know this makes sense, or I know like this is something that could work, but like my heart wasn't in it, and so like my heart wasn't on board yet. And so I was like fighting the heart and the head, and just maybe keeping my fingers crossed that I could get those things to align.
Yeah, so basically you're saying that when you say fingers crossed, hope that it would align, that you would still be able to work in your passion, but for somebody else? Is that what you mean? And then do it? Or
I think it was hoping that like I could make the business work.
Oh, okay,
and make
got
the and make, I mean, like I had business coming in, I had money coming in, but like, I didn't have a life that could accommodate the other things I wanted,
Right.
And so it was like I was hoping somehow that all those things would kind of fall into place, and like magically I would make more money and I would have more time, and like all these things would just work out and I could continue my business.
And how long, I don't know if I remember this, but how long were you in business from that point before you met me? Like,
I don't know. What year did we meet?
I think it was 16.
Okay, so I started my business in 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you were doing this for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And so maybe talk to me about that. Like when you're saying it wasn't giving you a lifestyle, like, maybe even get in the weeds for everyone listening.
Sure.
Like you were like working long hours. Like tell me about that. What was it like?
So I started my business in 2012, partially out of necessity. And so at that point, it was like anything that would come in the door, immigration related, like, yes, I can handle that, And so by the time I met you, I'd gotten to the point where my days were full. I had business coming in, which was amazing. And that in itself was a huge success because things had ramped up. I'm a very cautious person. I'm not a risk taker. I want to be certain about things. And so I change very slowly. And so, as I'm all of a sudden there's business coming in and I'm like, yes, I want that. Yes, I want this. And so it was like, great. Like there's enough to keep me busy. But it had also gotten to the point where I went over the hump where I felt like I was at a point where I was willing to pay to get some of my time back.
Yes.
Because I noticed that it was constantly busy. And then I would be like, oh, once we get past H1B season, it'll get better. Once we get past whatever this is, it'll be better. Once, and it never got better, and that just also coincided with the time where I met my husband. And so I remember telling him I just need to get past this. And then I'd get past it. I'm like, no, I just need to get past this. Yeah. And there would just be I wouldn't be able to spend time with him, even though I wanted that.
Yeah, so you're starting to notice the impact in your personal life. And I just want to highlight, because I know it just went right by, but you said you're at the point where you would pay to get your time back.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that, because this is the thing about More Business, More Life, is that we think when we hit the money that we're just going to, all of a sudden, like you were kind of saying, magically it'll just appear.
Right.
And then the money's coming in, so business is becoming successful, but we're losing our life.
Yeah.
To the point where we're willing to pay. And then you're finding the love of your life, your husband, and you don't even have time to spend with them. So when that was all happening, how did that affect you?
I mean, I was, I think, frustrated, burnt out, and it was, I just remember it being a realization that this is just how it is. It's not just get past this season or this thing, this just, apparently this is now my life.
Okay.
And I remember that being a surprise, and that's when I was like, something needs to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is right around that same time that I appeared?
I think so. Yeah. Because I don't think otherwise I would have been ready to meet you, because I was so it had taken so long to get to the point where business was just coming in, where I didn't have to really hustle for it.
Yep.
That it was in some ways that was liberating, right?
Yes.
To not have to worry about am I going to be able to pay the bills the next month? But then with that liberation also came a lot of loss of freedom as well.
So losing your freedom. And I know this might be slightly repetitive, but just so this goes in, here you are building a business, you're looking for money, you're looking for clients and make it sustainable. You're doing what you love. Let's all remind ourselves that you're doing that. But then it does become a job, and it does become this mechanism, right? And you're creating that sustainability. So now you're at the point where money is coming in, but then you're losing your life at that same exact time. Mm-hmm. So what did that look like? Were you I know it's getting a little in the weeds, but were you working at home? Did you have an office? Were you spending gobs of time at a desk? What was the physicality of it?
I think I blocked a lot of that out.
Let your mind go back if you can, only because it's helpful, because someone else might say, oh, that's where I'm at right now. I don't know.
So I did have an office at that time, and I do think that I was spending a lot of time there. I can't remember how much time, but I also would like go home and keep working. Like I remember sitting on the couch and having like papers like all around me, you know, like working on cases. And yeah, I just remember it being late at night, and like that there's just one conversation with my husband that I remember, that it was like I was working, it was late at night, and I was like, yeah, I just need to get past this, and then like I'll have time, and then we can, you know, do whatever it is. And Yeah.
And then that never came.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like that's like month after month, or
I think it was a period of several months. Yeah.
yeah, where you're trying to find that end,
Yeah.
and then the finish line keeps moving
Right.
ahead. It's
Yeah.
it's like an optical illusion.
Right. Yeah.
So what would you say, just as some markers, you're getting up in the morning and starting, and then you take like a meal break, and then you went back to work at night? Like, I mean, what was, just for everyone listening, like what was, if there's one more layer deeper, like what was life like at that period?
I really think I blocked a lot of that out of my head. I don't remember. I would try to go to the office every day. I'm not like a super early bird, so I think I was going around 9, and then I would stay there until I would have come home to eat. So usually the things that stop me is being hungry.
Yeah, thankfully.
And yeah, exactly. And so, I'd like take my lunch break and then go back to work. And then when I would work until I couldn't handle the hunger anymore. And then I would go home to eat.
Okay.
And then if I had it in me, I would just keep working at home.
Wow. Anything else you think are like markers during that period that, I mean, were you starting to, I guess you were already starting to say this is not okay, because you're already starting to think, how could it be different? But also I'm hearing you were almost ready to accept it, because you're like, so you couldn't see a way out. I guess that it comes back to why you would even think to get a job, because you're like, if this is the way this is,
right,
maybe I should quit.
Yeah.
So you're at this point. So just to kind of highlight where we are, you're working lots of hours. You're not even having time to spend with the person you love, this partner that you met and want to spend life with. And then you're feeling that, and you keep waiting, like, okay, after this, I'll get there. And then you're kind of saying, okay, is this how this is? And maybe if it is, I'm ready to leave. Am I summarizing that pretty well?
I think so. Like, I mean, I felt like I was working so hard, and like I didn't necessarily feel like the financial rewards were flowing from that. And so it felt like, if I'm going to work this hard, like I might as well work for someone else this hard, and then be able to get benefits, be able to take time off, and like, have a maternity leave, like those sorts of things. Yeah. Right. And so it was like, I think like the, why am I doing this started to come in,
Yeah. And for your life, that it was not allowing you to have the mechanism to live the life that you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Understood. So thank you so much for sharing your heart with, and being vulnerable and sharing this. 'Cause I mean, it is, but so empowering, because how many of us do this? I mean, this is what I find all the time with this show, More Business, More Life, is that we think it's either or. It's like, okay, I'm going to have this business, but I have to give up my life, or I'll have my life and I have to give up my business.
Right.
And that's even where you were. But then then even how much more life would you have to give up if you then were owned by a job? I mean, we get like more, like, I guess, framework, because you would get that maternity leave and things like that. But ultimately then it would be shorter, right? Like, in my viewpoint, coming from a place where like, oh, I know that I could design it. And obviously, like, I went through my challenges too, which we won't get into my whole story. People that watch this show, they already know a lot about that. But just in a fast track, I did like 12 years. So you're 4 years, I did for like 12, and couldn't find my way out until I finally got help. It's like you're in a maze and you need a guide, like a GPS. Yeah. And then having that, I spent another, 5 years of big change, maybe 10 years to like become who I am now. So kind of like 2 decades of like, here's how not to do it, here's how to do it, and then merge all that into the lessons. So I can relate to what you're saying. So let's look at this transition, like, almost like a cocoon. I know it's cliche, but you're this caterpillar, the business, and then it's like, okay, am I going to be a butterfly in this thing, or am I going to like give up on that dream? You went into a cocoon with me, really, I guess, in a transformational way.
Yeah.
but so at that moment, this is all happening. You're at this point where, okay, what am I going to do? And then somehow you show up at an event that I'm speaking at. So maybe like take us to that moment. What was going on?
I mean, the event, it was through a networking group, and I saw you speak, and what did you speak about? I think you spoke about the WoW client,
Yes.
I believe.
Yep.
And that was like mind blowing for me because I had been at that in the place where like I just need the phone to ring, right? And the phone had finally started ringing. And the idea that I could say no, like, was not even something I had considered, you know? And like it just so resonated with me because there were certain case types or maybe certain clients who I'd been working with that like I knew were taking energy from me and were more difficult than other case types. And it's like like the financial piece of it didn't make sense for the amount that I was losing by being involved with those cases, right? Like amount of energy and like excitement for work and like time and all that stuff. And so I think like that concept just totally shifted or like opened my eyes that things could be a little bit different.
Which is what you were looking for. Like, where's that variable? So I can see that. And for those that maybe are just listening for the first time or you haven't heard, so WoW clients is something that I found too, because going back to my 12 years of pain, I thought you take every client you can, and then you have some ow clients. So I call it WoW and ow, as you already know, Jennifer. But this WoW and ow, because we think we have to take all of it, like you're saying, even though it's not. We can build our business by design. And when we work with the owl, the owl over here, let's call the owl over here, then we start draining our life, our business, hours of time. It tends to take longer, and emotionally we get drained.
Yeah.
And then when you're working with WoW, like those amazing clients, then you have more energy. And that's what I think a lot of people, when they start listening to More Business, More Life, they think it's all about time, which time is important. We want time for family. We want time to travel. But if we have no energy, all that time is worthless. So WoW clients is one of my go-to. It changes every business I've been a part of. So I won't even work with a company if they won't take this concept in, because it really is like pollution in your business, and you already felt it. So now bringing WoW clients, so you're choosing only the WoW. Like, what was that like for you at first? Like, was it immediate, or did you get scared of it? Because it is a big change.
I think I got scared a lot. I mean, there were some that it was easier or like more clear, right? Like, I don't have a lot of experience in this case type. Let me refer you to someone who has more experience in it, you know? And so I started to strengthen some of my referral relationships through that, which was great. And that also built my resources, right? As a solo attorney, having colleagues who I can like bounce ideas off of and call when, you know, we need help, that is amazing. And so that kind of had a dual impact in that sense. And I distinctly remember one client who I can't remember why, but like I knew that they would not be a good fit to work with me. It might have been like the technology piece, or maybe it was a language barrier, but he was so insistent on working with me because his friend had worked with me and had a good experience. And I remember like in that moment, that part of me wanted to say yes, because that's just, you know, like I want to help people. Like someone wants to pay me to do something that I can do. Like my natural tendency is just to say, yeah, I'll do that. But I had you in my ear saying like, this is going to be an owl client. And I remember doubling down and telling him like, you know, the reason why your friend is recommending me is because one of the things I do to care for my clients is to give them honest feedback and like to make decisions that benefit them, even when I know it's not going to help me. And this is one of those times, you know, that I'm not going to be great for you the way that I was great for him, because this isn't a good fit. And I just remember that for me being a very powerful moment that, oh my God, I turned it away, and like, that's something I could have done. And I know that would have been like a resource heavy case just because of the circumstances.
Right.
You know? And so, yeah, I think that was really a really like transformative or like impactful time. I don't think that was the first time, but that was like, I know it's taken root, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, just to highlight that, because I always say, and, you know, I've said this to you before, I have these concepts, these systems, these procedures that make business simpler so that we can have the life we want at the same time. But I can give you that, but you don't have to do it.
Right.
The reason we're sitting here right now is because I gave you concepts and then you actually use them and it changed your life. And this is in that. So just coming back to the scary part, I know a lot of people get scared because you're like turning away money, which is the one thing we need to sustain our business, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll come back. So this is an amazing success story where it took root and you actually had the confidence to do it. But how was it getting through that scary phase of like, should I turn this away? Or how did that go?
So I think I held on to a lot of case types for a long time that I probably shouldn't have. And it was rooted in the scariness. I started out by introducing myself as a family immigration lawyer. So that actually took me a really long time to actually commit to because I did do work visas and I still do a little bit. But those cases don't bring me joy the same way that the family immigration does. Largely because I'm working with companies and I'm not able to do the counseling and build the personal relationships with the immigrants that really those are the things that really fill my cup, right? Is being able to connect with people in that way. And so for a long time, I knew that wasn't a great fit for me. But it was so hard to stop that flow because it was coming and it had taken a while for me to figure out how to turn it on. And it had taken me a long time to learn those case types. And so it was I had invested so much in this, it was hard to be able to say that's not serving me right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still struggle with it because I still have some of those cases. But those cases that I've kept are my WOW clients, at least. So those are companies that I've built long relationships with that I want to continue to support,
Yeah. So it comes back to the personal relationship.
Yeah.
And it is this thing where it can be scary because you build up that revenue, but it's not the right case. So now let's take that transition. So you chose to use this method. You saw the wisdom in it. And you did it, and you like you said, it took root.
Yeah.
And so then what happened? So after the scary period where you're like, okay, I know who I'm working with, and you say no to the other ones, then did the scary part happen, or did you overcome that? You know what I mean?
There are still moments where it's a little bit scary, but I mean, it's partially the nature of the business, which added to why it was hard to stop my employment-based immigration practice because when you work with clients, they continue to have needs for different employees. And when you work with families, I mean, hopefully they only get married once.
Yes.
And then, I might follow them on their immigration journey. They might want to petition for a parent. But essentially, families are finite in length, right? They aren't the same kind of recurring business. And so it is, so just by the nature of the type of work it is, there are still moments that are scary. But overall, what it has also done is it's made me a lot more efficient because I'm not spending so much time learning and staying on top of all these different case types. Really we are masters in the family-based immigration area. And so we can handle those cases very seamlessly. And we, our processes are in place so that it happens more smoothly. And so I've gained a lot back in terms of my time and my efficiency by focusing on my WOW clients.
That's so good because you're going into the depths of all the results. So not only do you get to be happier and work with the people that your heart really sings for, but then you also are able to streamline your processes and those procedures, offer even better service because like you said, you have to keep up on all these different laws, whereas now you can be in one. So the layers of results where you only focus on the WOW are starting to stack up.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point because now I'm thinking more about my client experience. How can I elevate that a little bit more? And what else would I want if I was a client? And which leads to me to wanting to survey my clients and be able to provide the next level of service so that I can really market myself as a more concierge type service as opposed to, one of these mills that just will churn out cases. Right. And to be able to have the time to even think about the client experience, that's not something I could have ever done if I'd continued on the path that I was on.
Understood. And then coming back to that path. So would you say that, wow, and maybe it's something else, but you know, there's many things that we've worked on together. But what, so, you know, you have wow clients, we have talking to the clients, which we can talk about too at some point. But is there one thing or a couple things that made it possible? Because you did go from the point where you didn't even know if you're going to be able to keep your business and be a mom, and now you've been able to do it. And even maybe spoiler here, because we'll get to this point, but you've been able to do it working part-time even. Yeah. So, but is there one thing that you learned from me, or maybe we highlight a couple if it is, but have you thought about that? Like what are the things that made it possible? I know wow clients, we just brought that up, but are there others, or is that the main one? I'm curious.
I'm going to answer this question in a little different way. I think the main thing I gained from working with you was a mindset shift.
Okay.
And maybe it is mostly tied to wow clients, but I think it was like redefining what success looks like in a business, because, you know, having my phone ringing all the time, I was like, oh, this is great, you know? Or even like I've always wanted to be a lawyer in jeans, and I always felt like I couldn't, partially because I know I look young, and I would always be fighting that stereotype as well. And so like the idea of being able to lawyer in jeans was not like, I didn't know if I could achieve that, because there are these concepts of like what an attorney should look like, what does professionalism look like, you know, like what does success look like, right? Being busy throughout the day, and like just adjusting my mindset and realizing that those things don't equate, you know, like how
they don't equate success.
Yeah, they don't have to be what success is, or my success doesn't have to look like that. And I remember, you know, my husband, when we met, was also working a job that traveled a lot. And so I would like come with him on some of his trips. And this is after I was working with you. And he had a Southwest Companion Pass, and I would go with him on like a business trip every month. And I remember after working with you, like traveling all that time, I was working less when I was traveling. And I would find that every month that I traveled, I would do better, like revenue-wise, than the months where I was already like just sitting in the office all day.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was like this idea of just kind of flipping the script and like reminding myself that it doesn't have to be that way. That was like the biggest takeaway, or the biggest gain. And I've shared this with you before, that I would often have moments where I'm like, what would Steve do? You know, and I would like hear your voice, like kind of showing me that there was another way and that there was another path forward.
That's amazing. And it's, you know, because I'm just echoing this, and then we'll take it a little further, but you're in this place where we think we have to put so many hours in, and the definition of success is, you're saying what we thought. I found that my mindset shift was to stop thinking what other people, you know, because we're basically are becoming someone else. We're like, who am I supposed to be? Like an actor, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm supposed to look this way because now I'm a lawyer. I have to look this way. Right. Oh, I have my own business. I have to work this hard. I have to have my calendar stacked. I better have my phone ringing all the time. So we have all these ideas of what that looks like. It's like a story that we tell ourselves. And like you said, it's interesting you brought it to a script. It's like you're making the movie of yourself, but you wrote the character in like your own hell. Yeah. You're like, I'll write this in because this is the way this actor would be. And then you find that you can do it. So I just want to highlight something that you just said, and I want to make it loud and clear. You actually got more done taking more time off, enjoying your travel, than when you worked in the office longer hours.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, it's an oxymoron. It's like, I'm going to work less and I'm going to make more. But that's what you're basically saying. Or even the same. So even if you work less and you make the same amount of money.
Right.
But I know you did grow too. So over time you grew, you worked less hours and you grew.
Yeah.
Is that how would you describe that transition there? Like, I mean, it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
But I guess just validating that that's true.
Yeah.
With your words.
I mean, I think it is like, it just, the rest kind of flowed, like once. And I guess it is the wow client that really was the thing that really changed it for me. Because when I when I started working with mostly wow clients and I was focusing on family cases, I was able to be more efficient. You helped me with hiring my first employee. And so then after that, it was like being able to share the load. Because for the longest time, I was like, how do I know that I have too much work for myself, but I was worried that I didn't have enough to support an employee.
Yeah.
And how this business is so close to my heart. It was like my first child. How do I trust someone else with it?
Yeah.
And I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. But you were just saying how, working with only the clients you want, streamlining that, then hiring so you had more help.
Right.
And then this started giving you more life. Right?
Yeah. And so that having more help helped free up the time, helping build some of my systems, and automating more. All that allowed me to work a little bit less and then made me more efficient. And I think that the revenue increase flowed from that.
It's so beautiful, that all these things occurred. And then what happens? So you're reducing your work hours. And do you remember the moment when you're like, I can do this? Because I remember even when we first worked together, you were still thinking about getting a job. It was still on the table. I remember. And then I'm just curious, do you remember the moment you're like, oh, I don't have to? Was there a defining moment, or did it just kind of come into being? Or, I don't know.
I think it just came into being because part of me always knew that it would be hard for me to leave this because like I said, this is my first child, and it would be so hard to walk away. And in all honesty, I think there's some point in the future where maybe I would still consider going, getting a job, but it would be for different reasons, it wouldn't be for the freedom. It would be because whatever that was is something that feeds my soul,
Right.
it would be a more conscious choice,
like a cause-based decision.
Yeah.
Because I know you do other things, and maybe we'll take a moment to do that. Actually, that's a remarkable thing, and maybe since I brought it up now, but well, let's first go to the parenting part. Actually, I'll come back to that because I want to talk about that. You not only do you have a business, you also are a mom now. So you have your family, and then you also still do other volunteer work.
Yeah.
And you make all that work now, which wasn't possible back then. So what a beautiful thing. So let's talk about becoming a mom. Mm-hmm. So I guess there was some transition where you felt comfortable and you're like, okay, my business is doing good. I guess it's time. I don't have to get a job to have, what do you remember? Was there a decision with your partner that you're like, I think we can do this? Or
I don't think it was so much okay, now I have a paralegal in place, now I can leave it. I don't think it was quite like that, but I do think it was a lot of that flowed from having the help, and having someone that I knew I could trust help in my business.
Yeah.
And I knew that she would be able to help me continue on while I took some time off. And so that started by with all the travels I was doing with my husband, knowing that she could continue things while I was, yeah, exactly. And she could hold down the fort for most of it. And then, and then my plan, going into, I was still panicked about it.
Okay.
And I talked to so many colleagues who were sole proprietors, and I was asking them, how did they do it? What did they do? And some of the lawyers I talked to, one of them was, she's writing a brief in her hospital room while she's in active labor.
No way.
Yeah. And another one of them, she's I mean, her kids are now grown and out of college, but she said that she was paying bills for her firm from the hospital bed.
Wow.
And so I was hearing all these horror stories, and partially I needed to hear that to know even if it's really bad, it can still work.
Yeah.
So I was preparing for the worst, but I never got there, thank God.
Okay.
And I think prior,
thankfully. Yeah.
Prior to working with you, I think that I would have been very self-conscious about putting up an out of office saying that I'm on maternity leave.
Yeah.
Or that I was going to be away for as long as I was going to be away. And then I kind of like readjusted that. I'm like, you know what? If they're not okay with that, then they're not my wow client.
Which goes back to the wow client.
Yeah.
You're choosing, the whole concept that you get to choose, right?
Yeah.
That's, I think, because again, this does come back to freedom. We think when we have a job or when we have a company that we give up our freedom to help someone else, but that goes back to the concept of win-win. I just want to take a short break. And first, thank you for listening to the More Business, More Life podcast. And right now, I want to give you the most important training that I lead off with. In fact, it's the most sought after keynote speech I've done all around the world, literally from Africa to New Zealand, Australia, all around North America and other parts of the planet. And I want to give that to you free. And all you have to do is text the word life to 72,000. That's LIFE to 72000. So text the word life to 72,000 and you'll gain access to this powerful training. And there is a catch to this, and the catch is quite simple, that you have to want, number one, change. If you want change in your life, then this might be for you. Number two, are you ready to take action? If you're not going to take any action, then this is probably not for you. And the third is, are you coachable? Are you willing to try new things? If you have those three things, you want change, you're willing to take action, and you're coachable, then please text life to 72,000 and we'll do our best. Whether we can help you or somebody else, our promise is that we're going to look at what's going on in your life and give you the best next step. And that might be working with us, that might be working with someone else, that might be going and reading a book, whatever it is, we're going to do the right thing for you. So let's design your life and build your abundance around that. People in modern society, win-win means that the client is winning, and it doesn't mean you're winning, but that's not the concept of win-win, because that's a win-lose. And then if you keep losing, then you don't exist anymore. Like then your business fails, you get stressed out, maybe you have a health issue because you're so stressed, so win-win is so important. And that's kind of just adding that layer of why wow client is so important, because when you're working with a client, they're winning and you're winning. That's essentially it. And how many business owners I know, they're losing so their client can win.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. Like typing up something while you're at the hospital. Like, how is that winning?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, like what people have gone through. And I am just so grateful that I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I was able to I believe I took a full month off for each of my kids. And then after that month off, I was pretty much working like part-time or, checking in when I needed to. And I did that. And both our kids stayed at home with us until they were about 10 months old. Okay. And so again, like was working like part-time until that point. And so like, I think being able to work part-time for 10 months is not even something that I would have imagined being possible. Yeah. Like not even worrying about money, but just like, can I bring my business back to life after that? Yeah. It's like, is this going to be like the nail in the coffin for everything to like slow down that much?
Right. So yeah, you got to basically have 10 months, you're working part-time, so you're keeping it going. So was there even a getting it back and going? Like it almost sounds like you just were able to keep it going. There wasn't a real dramatic stop.
No, there wasn't a real dramatic stop. But then like when I was like mentally ready, I certainly was able to ramp up a lot. Right. And so I felt the impact of that, which was, I mean, it was great to be able to be in control. And I think like a faucet. Yeah.
You're turning the water up and down, how much flow you wanted. You were able to do that.
And a large part of like what gave me confidence that I could essentially be part-time for so long was also learning about 10-minute calls and learning that there was something I could proactively do to turn that faucet back on if I needed to.
Right.
So
so you bring up another, did I cut you off?
Well, I was just going to say that prior to learning about 10-minute calls, like I didn't actually think, or I didn't know that any of that was in my control. And so like the idea that I had some control of that faucet and like I could turn it back on when I needed to, that was very liberating, and that allowed me the like mental space to be able to go do what I needed.
And just for everyone listening, like, so 10-minute calls is a mechanism that we use to shorten the amount of time for business development, and also so that you can basically increase business development. And I've used this in many different ways in rapid space to increase business. But so, and we're not going to get into the whole format right now, but having the 10-minute call, I guess, how, or maybe just describe that. So before the 10-minute call, like business development was kind of more a mystery. It was like, okay, I'm just doing these things and hope that they come in. Would that
yeah,
be,
I mean,
how would you describe it?
Yeah, so my business development has always been like, I believe these things help me, and let's hope that they actually do. And so like I mentioned before, I'm in different networking groups that I hope bring business. And then like I get referrals from past clients. And I get folks who, see these great reviews online and they decide to reach out from that. But
Right.
those are all things that like I put out in the world, and I'm just waiting for something to come to me.
Yeah.
And so then the idea that on top of that, I could go and like talk to someone and it could lead to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And so then you bring this process in, the 10-minute call procedure. Let's just call it that without getting into the details of it. But then now, instead of, oh, I hope this works or I hope that works, almost like a slot machine, you're like pulling down and hoping that money comes out. You were able to now have a consistent result.
I wish I could tell you that that's how it worked. But I think for me, it was like just knowing that existed was what I needed to like ease my anxiety about the idea of slowing down.
Okay.
And it was like just knowing that there was a way that I could do something.
Yeah.
So
again, it's mindset that
Yeah.
you knew that the faucet was there. So I guess what we're talking about is before learning this, you didn't know, you just thought there's a pipe that comes into my business.
Yeah.
There's no function.
Right.
If water comes out, great. If it doesn't come out, okay, I'm going to hope more.
Yeah.
But then now 10-minute call gave you the actual knobs.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I just turned this off or on.
Right.
So that's what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then having that, once you knew you could turn it off and on, you could bring more money into your business when you wanted to.
Yeah.
What did having that do for you?
I mean, that's what gave me the confidence and like the peace of mind to be able to take the time off to have kids and, focus on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, and let's relish in that for a minute. Mm-hmm. So you went through this, almost 4-year period, these last 4 years, and you've been able to work part-time and be a mom. Like, I mean, were there pinch me moments or like, is this real? Or like, I mean, just go into that. Like, what was it like? For me, it was always watching you. I just want to say personally, for me, it brought me so much joy because I remember the moment pretty soon after we met. We had a moment and you're like, all I wanted to be able to do this. And then when you were doing it, I was on the sidelines just like, oh my gosh, you did it. That's why I want to give you the kudos. You took action. Like, yes, I gave you like these techniques, but you went and did it. So can you just, share with the audience, like, what was it like, maybe at the beginning, the middle, or like, where on this journey of like, this is happening, how was that?
I mean, with my son, like taking that first month off and like having the plans in place so that like if things happen, they were being addressed. It was like, oh my God, like I don't have to jump. I was ready to jump in if I needed to.
Did you take your laptop to the hospital?
No.
Okay, good.
No.
I'm just checking because like you said some other people there.
Well, and I gave myself a little bit of like a like the state of California gives you like whatever many days before you have a kid. So I gave myself like maybe a week before I had my kid as well. And like, to be able to cut out in advance. Also something I didn't think would be possible. I thought I would be working up until like the moment I was going to the hospital. But then like being in like, I remember that there was something that my friend who was covering for me, she's an attorney who was like my coverage attorney during that time. She was looping me in on something. And I was like, I just remember being so grateful that I didn't actually have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It was like, if I needed to, I could, but like, I am not in like the mental space. Like, I don't want to stop what I'm doing to go do that. And, she had offered like, I had said like, I just need a month. She's like, if you need more, like I can do it for longer. And it was like, I remember beforehand, I'm like, no, I can't afford to do it for longer. And like in the moment, it was like, yeah, I don't want to go back to work right now. You know, like being able to like say that and like go with where I was in that moment. Like it was such a gift.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. And then, you know, having that, so knowing that you had help, you had a staff member, you were able to take that time off, even time before. What was that experience like for you and your family to be able to have that?
I mean, it was everything, right? Because I think like knowing those things could happen is what like part of what like helped pave the path for it happening. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And then, so thank you for sharing this with us. And so then going through this now, this 4-year period, and I think you're saying you've been averaging maybe like 20 hours. I know maybe now you've done a little bit more now that the kids are starting school and different things, but for the most part during that period, you were kind of doing about 20 hours a week. Is that right?
I think on and off, like at different periods, you know, when the kids were home, I was doing like 20 hours. And then I think, you know, whatever life circumstances, things have led to over time, me needing to prioritize and to like have more things off. Well, I've had to delegate more, basically, or I've been able to delegate more. And in delegating more, now it's like, oh, so she can handle that? Why am I doing it? Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I think initially there was a lot of guilt when it's like, well, I could do it. Like, why am I asking her to do it? She already has stuff she needs to do. And like realizing that that's not how this works. Like if I need to free up time, even if it's just to have like the mental space to take a deep breath, to like think about like my client experience or whatever it is, think about what else I want to change. Yeah. Like that's a valid reason to delegate. Yes. You know? And so so now like I think my average these days is about 20 hours of like casework stuff, and I spend the rest of the time sitting around and thinking, I guess. Yes,
which is really important. Let's not underestimate that. So even this is quite a highlight. So we're stacking stuff up here. So you're working with the WOW clients that you want to work with. You're able to do it in a reduction of time with all the procedures. You're able to have a family take time off. You're able to have a team so they can take on this. And then even now you're creating an even better experience. And this is what I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss. So that's why I'm highlighting this. You're working all the time and we think that, oh, I'm building my business, so I have to be active with client work or whatever the procedure is. You have to be in it. And Peter Drucker, a famous business consultant from many decades ago, he always said that the transformation is when you work on your business more than in it. And so that's it. So you've been able to do all these things that we've said, but you're also working in your business less, so you're able to work on it and then be able to grow it. And then there is an impact. So yeah, you're working less. You know, sometimes when we think we're delegating or that whole thing, should I do this? Right. We think that we're putting work on someone else. Yeah. But that's actually a blessing. You're actually giving income. You're giving a job to someone else. You're creating a livelihood for another human being, and more than one in some cases, right? Like as you've grown your business. So I'm only taking a moment to highlight that because I think we undervalue that time off, the thinking you're talking about is very valuable. Yeah. Right. And I know from our conversations, and I don't know if we want to bring it up, and we don't have to share any of the proprietary stuff, but then you're in this mode. We've talked in this last year that you're creating things to improve your industry. Right. I mean, and I know they're not there yet, but now you could revolutionize and you can make things more efficient for attorneys in your whole industry. That wouldn't have come if you were working crazy hours. Yeah. You know? Yeah, totally. I mean, so I guess with all of that, you know, going back to this 4-year period, and we just stacked all that up, can you share from your words, like, what is that experience like? Because I think we're like above the clouds. Like we hit the threshold of what you wanted. You're like, I want to be a mom and I want to be able to keep my business going. Check the box. Like in a way we could check that box. Yeah. But now you're going above and beyond that. You're creating better experience for your clients. You're creating industry changes potentially. What's that like, or in your words, or am I describing this, but like I'm just sharing what I'm seeing and what you're saying. So what is it like having all of this?
Like I'm just so grateful, and I mean, I feel I just had a conversation yesterday with one of my colleagues who, was saying like, oh, can you imagine, like I was just sharing that there's other stuff going on in life, and like that has been distracting me from moving the needle forward on my business. And like, she made a comment like, can you imagine when we can get to a point where we can do those things and not worry about the business? And my response to her is like, I feel like I'm kind of there. Because, like, I can't imagine, 5-6 years ago being able to take time to deal with family things or whatever else is going on in my life and, like, know that my business is fine.
Yeah.
Like, things are fine. All those, like, my cases are moving forward. Like, all that, the work is being done. And I can still address the other things going on in my life.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, to be able to do that, it's like, this is great. And like I have to remind myself, because I think as a culture we tend to constantly strive for strive for more, strive for better. And like I have to remind myself that like I'm super grateful for where I am now, because this is already so much more and so much better than where I was when I started, right? And it was more than I could have dreamed of at that point as well.
So you're beyond your dreams.
Yeah. And like to the point where now I'm like sitting here and going like, what do I want next? I don't know. Like what more is there to want, right?
Yeah, and so you get to re-dream. I mean, then it goes back to going back to the drawing board, like if we want to design anything else in your life, right? Yeah. Which comes to that, you've also been included, like I guess, out of everything I just listed a few minutes ago, I forgot to bring up the volunteer work. You're also volunteering and again, working with youth. And so you do that every year?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm the camp director and chair of a leadership camp for high school students. I've been involved with it since 2002. So I went when I was a camper in 1998, and it's just been a really instrumental part of my life. And also like along the timeline where like having a family, like that also was something that I was like, can I continue to contribute to this? And like, this is something that means so much to me and is such a big part of who I am. Like that, the idea of having to lose it was like, brought me to tears, Right. And so like now being at a point where like I'm more efficient in my business and still able to continue with my camp, it's been like, it's amazing. Right.
It's so beautiful. So beautiful. I mean, it's all so much stacking up. I mean, like how would, in your words, because I know I was like making that list right now in my head, but I'm taking it from your words right now, but how in your words would you say, like if you were to summarize all these results, like how would you describe, like from where you were to where you are now, like in your words, like what does that look like for you to say out loud and to share with the audience, like, that, I mean, we did, I guess what I'm saying, let me help you with this, because we did it in a big form, but if you were to like, if it was like a table of contents, let's say, in your mind, so it's not my words, like how would you say this went to the results where you are now, if it can? I mean, just give it a try.
I mean, the reason why I laugh is because the first thing that came to mind is freedom. And it's like you planted that, I did just listen to the core value recording you had yesterday, so maybe that's why it's in my mind as well. But like I think the title of the last 4 years would be freedom, and I like the main parts would be the biggest thing that I have said and will continue to say is like the change in mindset, like just knowing that it could be different, and like success doesn't have to be the way that society or our parents or whoever it is tells us it should be, I think that would have been the main thing.
So thank you for that. So the mindset, and that you can have freedom the way you want. And so it's a different word, but like that you designed your life, so basically you were able to do that.
And it's funny because I told you that I used to want to be a lawyer in jeans. And I remember distinctly, this is before I met you, I went to a career talk at a high school. One of my friends is a high school teacher. And so I went and I talked to some students about what it's like to be a lawyer. And I very intentionally wore jeans and dressed not the part because I wanted to spread that message that you don't have to be the way that people think lawyers are. But at the same time, I still felt that in my work, right? And so I'm here, that's a message I wanted to be put out there, but I still couldn't fully embrace it myself. You know?
Yeah, well, and so then today,
yeah.
Are you a lawyer in jeans?
Well, and so, yeah, the irony is I'm wearing jeans.
Right.
And I totally didn't even think about that when I got dressed this morning. Yeah.
So it came true.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I'm going to pull my little card out here just to make sure that, because this is so beautiful. I guess maybe there's nothing new, but I just also put a note here. I know we talked about a few, but the specific techniques or lessons that made this true. I know we hit on wow clients, 10-minute calls. I know we hit on mindset that you can choose. Are there any other techniques that you learned from me or my team?
I mean, I think also eliminating, automating, and delegating. That has been a big part of it, right? You helped me hire my paralegal, and that has been a godsend for delegating, obviously, having someone to send the work to. And now, as we're at our kind of next phase of transition, we've also been looking at ways to help her delegate and how to take more off her plate so that she can open up her capacity. So as a firm, we can take on more as well. And so, at the various stages, again, we're back at that point where, we've actually listed out our whole workflow, and I've gone through with her, what does she want to get rid of? What can we automate from her process to try to make her also more efficient and up-level the whole firm?
This is something I commonly talk about because sometimes people think you're the CEO, founder of your company, and it means everyone has to work their butt off for you. But we can actually take these same techniques and let our work, the people that are helping us, have their life too. Yeah. What do they want?
Yeah.
So, and you're doing that, and it is in a way it passes through, and now you can hire another person, and then you can help your other team members move into the life that they want. Mm-hmm. And so you use the same technique all the way through your whole organization.
Yeah. And so we've we've onboarded a very part-time admin to assist with some of these things. And then as we've been bringing him on board, and the way that we've been training him is also something that you taught me, how we we teach him and we have him teach her, we go around the circle and teach each other so that we can all make sure we understand things to the level that we need to. Yeah. Right? Because we're also an all remote team. So it makes it so that it's not as easy to just be hey, am I doing this right? You know? And so the times that we're together are more rare. And so to be able to have those training tools as well has been
so helpful. To have a format to train makes it easier. And that's something that we definitely go over. It makes it, So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. And how are there any other
I was just thinking, even when I hired my paralegal, I remember I asked you, what do I ask in an interview, And I remember you gave me some really helpful feedback on things that would help me get to the core of is this someone that I could work with or I would want, that we would work well together with? Does she possess the qualities that I want? So I think it was a lot of, there were a lot of very specific, in the weeds things that I needed help with that helped me get to this point.
So beautiful. And how long has she worked with you now?
She just celebrated her 6-year anniversary.
6 years.
Yeah.
That's so great. I think, I don't know the statistic today, but I know it's 2 years or less. I think it's less than 2 years, the average job.
Wow.
So you've already tripled that. And that's the thing, you know, when you hire someone that's right, the retention is so important.
Yeah.
It is so costly to have turnover. And with these methods that we're talking about
Yeah.
here, you can actually, you know, recruit, train, and retain, I always like to say. And you've been able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get consistency because you don't have to retrain someone new. And this
Yeah.
gives you this opportunity to be a mom.
Yeah.
So you had her for 2 years before you became a mom then about.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
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 That's so beautiful. So beautiful. And then, you know, coming back to the results, and I know we hit those, so then maybe highlight some of the specific results that you would like, that you think are really important for people to hear. If they're, because, you know, anyone listening to this, maybe they already have their business going, maybe they're thinking of starting a business, and maybe they're a woman that wants to be a mom, or maybe they are a mom and they have the laptop at the hospital, right? And they're listening to this, like, you know, what are the things that became possible for you that you have these results now?
I mean, the main thing was like having a life, right? Because I don't know how many hours I was actually working, but it was definitely more than 40, you know? And so being able to initially just being able to bring it down to like a regular work day, that in itself was like awesome. Like I can go out to dinner with my husband, you know, like I could do those normal things because now I had like an out of work time. And now like more recently, like being able to choose how I spend my time in the day. And like, you know, even though, especially now that my kids are in daycare, like they're gone most of the day, but also being able to carve out time within that where I'm not just working the whole time and that I can do the things that I personally need to do as well. Like that has been so liberating. And, you know, my husband and I, like, our oldest is almost 4, and so we've only ever had 2 date nights in 4 years. But it's largely because during the work week, we go out to lunch like every week.
So those are dates. You're having lunch dates.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, you know, when I tell people, yeah, we haven't had a date night, and it's like, but it's actually because like we have date days, you know, and like at least once a week we'll go out to lunch together, you know, and like I can leave in the middle of the day and, you know, go out to a longer lunch, and it's like, it's not a big deal. It's no big thing, you know, it's just scheduled. It's just something I know is going to happen.
It's so beautiful. And in fact, I like those as I built my freedom, taking my kids to the zoo or going to a park during the middle of the week when no one else was there, instead of having to do it on the weekend when everyone else was, or Friday night, go to out and wait in line for dinner when you can just go have a really, really nice lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
So it just adds to the freedom.
Yeah, totally.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And having that, like, if, and I know maybe you're going to repeat something, but just asking it directly, like, what would you say if you had to pick one thing was the greatest value in our relationship for you?
It's a mindset shift. Like 100% the mindset shift. Like the concept of saying no to incoming business, like it just never even occurred to me.
Right.
It was like, what, like, why would I say no to like someone who wants to give me money, you know?
Right. Well, and then on that, maybe just extrapolate that a little bit for someone listening that doesn't understand what that means. So you're saying no, but then you gain, which seems like an oxymoron, right? So you say no, you're saying no to money, but you gained how? Like maybe tell, I
mean, so I've had people, so I've said no to people, and usually when I say no to someone, I also refer them to a colleague who I think would be a good fit for them.
Right.
And I've had some of the people I've said no before actually ask me like if they could refer someone to me. Like they've actually come back and referred because they also appreciate that I'm recognizing that I'm not actually going to be a great fit for them.
Right.
You know, but
so you're kind of teaching them. They might have said, "Oh, you can do that." Like, right.
Right. Yeah. And in saying no and clarifying like who would be a good fit for me, it actually triggers for them. Actually, I know someone who would be a good fit for you. Yeah. You know. And I mean, and also working with. I guess the main thing is working primarily with WOW clients. It just makes work so much easier. Yeah. And it makes it more enjoyable, and it makes it more efficient, and yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for that. And here's another quick one, or maybe not quick, or whatever amount of time it takes, but if out of all of this now, this experience over these years of us working together, like if there's one highlight in your life, maybe like with your family, I don't know if it's a trip or a thing, or maybe it is just lunches with your husband, but like, what would you say is like, if we were to make a painting of all this freedom, like a snapshot of it, like what would be the pinnacle moment thus far?
I think it would have been, so at the end of last year, my family and we took a 6-week trip. We hadn't traveled in so long because of COVID, and we spent 2 weeks going to a family wedding in Hong Kong, and then 4 weeks visiting my husband's family in Reunion, where he's from. And like the idea of being gone for that long, I think I don't think that would have ever even entered my mind before. And like to be able to be gone, and like I worked while we were in Reunion, I worked part-time while we were there. Like I was working, they're 12 hours ahead, so I was working like 8 p.m. to midnight or something, something like that. But like during the days, I'm like basically on a beach island vacation. We're going to like the beach in the morning, we're taking the kids out playing, that we're spending time with family. And like, I remember being on that trip and thinking like, this is okay. Like, I can do this. This is okay to do. And thinking about your stories about taking your family around the world with you and being able to have that freedom. And like, I think prior to working with you, I think I would have needed convincing that's like professional and acceptable. To actually go and do that.
So would you say, thank you for that. So would you say part of the mindset shift was permission? Giving yourself permission?
Yes. I think so, yeah.
Through these techniques, so it's like stacking up all these techniques that we've talked over this course of this conversation. You then were able to give yourself permission to go on a 6-week vacation, be with your family, work part-time. Because even if you do work 8 to midnight, you're doing 4 hours.
Yeah.
I know you've heard my stories where I remember one trip I was like, everyone works 5 days and takes 2 days off. So I'm going to work 2 days and then take 5 days off wherever I was in the world with my family. And I did it. And I think that's the whole thing. It's like you have to first come up with a concept, and then you have to find the way to work it in. And that's where these procedures work. But then, so through this, because that's how I was going to extrapolate. Mindset is such a big word. If you were to go down deeper, like, what do you mean by the mindset shift being the biggest thing?
I think I had very specific ideas of what it meant to be professional. Even the idea of like being able to put up an out of office saying like I'm working in a different time zone, or I'm working these hours, or I'm gone for this amount of time. Like I think I would have always, I was nervous about even saying like, oh, I won't check your message until I'm back. But I mean, really, in like the type of work I do, there are actually very few actual emergencies. So there are very few situations that can't wait a week, a week or 2 weeks, right? Yeah. And so understanding that like it's okay to not be constantly available, and like it's okay. Actually, that's another one, is like the drawing of boundaries with my clients, and like it's okay to tell them I'm only available during business hours. And to not respond at night, and like not constantly be attached to my phone. Yes. And so it's like it was reimagining a lot of those things, because in my mind what it meant to like provide good service, to be professional, is to be responsive to all those things in the moment, But
in the moment is the key word, because you are responsive. I would say that you are responsive. So this goes back. This is the concept that to be a good steward, I have to be available constantly. Yeah. But then there's a sacrifice in that that's huge. And it's not just you. The client also suffers. Because when you suffer, you're not giving as good of a service. Yeah. I believe, and all my experience in 30 years now, being more than 30 years being an entrepreneur, your organization, everyone working with it, would have deteriorated because you would have wore it down. It's like not keeping upkeep. It's like not taking an oil change on your car or whatever it is. So, we think, this going back to this permission, that if I give myself permission to take time off, that I'm hurting the client, when in fact it's the opposite. By you having those boundaries, not working for a period of time so you can actually recover.
Yeah.
So you can actually live a life. You show up better. And let's remind everyone listening, like if you didn't listen to the beginning of this episode, go back because you've actually provided more. You've given better care. You've had better procedures. You've created more efficiency. You have higher results because of that, because you took time for yourself. So it is, again, I always say oxymoron because we think, oh, for me to do a good job, I have to give up my whole life. When in fact, when you give your life, when you take that time off, when you draw the boundaries, you're actually giving more to your client. Would you agree or describe that from your perspective?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm someone who I think was and still am someone who is like, I can take care of myself later. Like I can suck it up for a little bit to like make it better. And I think that's part of why I was working so much, because it was like, okay, well, I just need this night. Like I'll give up this night so that I can get this out.
Yeah.
And so then like I kept deprioritizing myself. And when you use that analogy of like a car running on like without oil changes, like I could totally see that if I hadn't met you, that I would have run myself into the ground doing that. Because I was exhausted, and I was like, I remember actually after meeting you, I actually took the email notifications off my phone so I wouldn't be tempted to check it, and like I actually wrote into my contract that like I respond to emails and phone calls during these are my business hours that I'll respond. And like if it is truly an emergency, like here are the parameters under which I can like address those outside of business hours. But like drawing very clear boundaries and like cutting myself off from like the temptation to actually do it in the moment, that was like really liberating. And all of a sudden, like I wasn't constantly on my phone. And then like the quality of my email responses when I'm sitting at a computer versus typing on my phone goes up as well.
Yes.
And the level of like attention that I can pay to something, it goes up as well. Right.
Yeah. So what would you say the result to the client, the end user now?
I mean, yeah, they're certainly getting a better lawyer out of me by having those boundaries and by having the time for me to actually recharge and do the things I need to do.
Yeah. So by giving yourself a life, you're actually giving them a better service.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I guess I only have 2 more things on my card here. So someone that is listening to this and they might be reaching for help, because that's another thing. It's not easy to ask for help.
Yeah.
I think some of us are not good at it. I know I wasn't. But the fact that you did reach out for help with me, get some of these parameters, change your life, and have the freedom that you have. If someone's listening to this right now and they're maybe relating to what your story is and they're thinking, maybe I should get help, like what would you recommend to someone like that? Like if you I guess go back to
Talk
you.
to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it that way.
Yeah.
So if you went back, either just before meeting me or right at the time you met me and you could give yourself advice, what would you say?
Just do it. I think for me, I think it was really hard to reach out for help because I had worked so hard to build my business and I had put so much into it, and I in some ways like I did it, like I made it 4 years and I was still like business was coming in, like things were working, and so in a lot of ways I did it successfthat. And so I think part of it was like the pride of like, I built this myself, know? Yeah. And so like kind of putting that on the shelf and like being open to a different perspective. 'Cause it's not that it's like, I think it was hard the idea of like, I don't need someone else. I can handle this. And yeah, I think in the end, like I may have still stuck it out. I don't think my quality of life would have been as good as it is now. I don't think my business would be where it is now. But I think it was like, I would tell myself just to be open to hearing different perspectives, because it's not like just because you work with someone or you hire someone that you have to do that, right? Like you do the things and you integrate the things that work for you and that resonate with you. And your business. But it's just the idea of being able to crowdsource and like discuss with other people who have been there, who have had successful businesses, who have just a different way of thinking, what else things could be like. Like I do that with my colleagues on cases, like, what do you think? What would you do? And people give me ideas that I don't like and I don't take, and that's okay. But like sometimes there's a nugget that leads me down a different path that I wouldn't have thought of on my own.
Yeah.
And so I think in working with you, like that nugget was like this huge other world that I didn't even know existed. And so while I say that like I may have still been in business, my life would not be anywhere near what it is now. Because it is just like it was a parallel universe that I didn't know existed, so I didn't even know to look for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would encourage myself just to be open to hearing and learning about a different perspective.
Yeah. It's that saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just occurred to me while you were saying that. I'm going to do just some very specific questions I think would be very useful for us. Sure. And thank you for. So how would you, more business, more life, maybe even say those words, like, what does that mean to you? Like knowing the program that you've been through with me, how would you describe more business, more life and what it meant to you?
More business, more life, I think is very aptly titled because it really is like, I feel like I learned a lot from more business, more life that actually allowed me to experience life. Right. And while like I went in wanting, like, I think I went in wanting more life, but actually what I also got was more business. And I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Yeah, we think that if we give ourselves that more life, we're going to have less business. I thought this too. And then I know for a fact when I made that decision, I more than tripled my business and income while having the life. Yeah. It's and then do the same question. Yeah. So like, what was the experience like with Freedom Council, the mentorship?
I think the Freedom Council was great to help me troubleshoot some things because I think a lot of times like you learn these tools in More Business, More Life or wherever else you're learning things. You're like, oh, that's great when I have this scenario, and not realize that like, oh, this also applies to this other situation, or like I can integrate this other thing we learned to fix this problem. Sometimes it's like you just are so focused on the problem you don't even know what to throw at it.
Yeah.
And so I think it was helpful to have someone else say, well, this is when you eliminate, automate, and delegate. This is when you do, like, you just take one step at a time and just do one thing at a time.
Yeah. So beautiful. And then, and things are going on this journey and just highlighting all these things. So I guess my last question, unless there's anything else you want to add, but what's next? Like, now, because you kind of alluded to that. You're like, okay, I've achieved more than you thought you would. So, and you don't have to be over revealing, but like, you're starting to dream, or you already know where the next step is, or you're just at that point?
I am like starting to dream. Like I mean, like what I want is to actually work even less and have more things automated, in my business. And like I want to focus on just the legal piece of the work that I'm doing, and have all the other processes and people, systems, all those things in place. So I'm just focused on the things that I need to do.
Yeah. Beautiful. And that's already somewhat on its way. You're already working on that. And I'm happy to continue our journey together. Mm-hmm. This has been so beautiful. I can't thank you enough for taking this time to share your life with us and others. And I do think it's very valuable for people to hear these stories, because until we hear someone else just like you, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So hopefully we open more parallel universes for other people out there watching and listening to this. It's so beautiful. Mm. And thank you for watching or listening, however you're consuming this content. I just want to thank you for doing that. And if you are watching this and you're on our newsletter and you got this, then you can hit reply and let us know what was the greatest value that you got from this episode. We do read that stuff and we do reply. And if you're not on our newsletter, all you have to do is text WOW to 72,000. So 72000, text WOW. It'll prompt you to join our newsletter. It's free. And then you get awesome content like this. And then you can interact with us because as Jennifer knows, we love to help people. And that's why why we do this. That's why we do this show. So thanks again for tuning in. Until our next episode, choose gratitude and create freedom. Thank you for being with us. Thanks for listening to the More Business, More Life podcast. I hope you got value. And if you did, we have so many more things for you at stevenapolitan.com. You'll be able to connect with us on social media. We are active. You can ask us questions. I look forward to having you on the next show. Until then, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom.